All right, buckle up, baby, because here on The Sweat, we are pigskin galore this morning, and I'm not quite sure you will find a happier NFL fan base right now than the Colts, because after a few tense months, it's Jonathan Taylor time. Not only is the all-pro running back back today, but he's back and handsomely paid, signing a 3-year, $42 million extension with the Colts, so we will dive into that coming up. Good morrow, lads, and again, welcome to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I'm your host, Emerson Latzia, surrounded by my chippy chaps, DraftKings contributor Steve Buchanan. We got Josh Applebaum here of VSiN. We have a lot coming up in this program, guys. America's team, more like the world's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, aiming for the upset against Bills Mafia. That game kicks off here in about an hour and a half. Which props to target on the DK Sportsbook? Plus, don't look now, or do. The Texans look like a good football team. Question is, how long will it last? Let's dive into the early slate of games right now, gentlemen. Let's start in the Steel City. A banged-up Steelers team here, Steven. Oh, Canada? Who knows? How do they respond against the Ravens in a rivalry spot here?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with a prop bet from this game. I'm going to take Kenny Pickett to throw an interception at minus 125. Already has 4 on the year. Toughing out that knee injury like you mentioned here. He's got a sprained MCL, maybe it's a bone bruise, whatever you want to call it there. Missing 2 of his key guys in this offense today. No Pat Freiermuth. He's going to be out of the game. Deontay Johnson continues to be out as well. Just feels like one of those spots here where we could just see a couple of mistakes here from Kenny Pickett as he tries to tough through that knee injury here. The Ravens secondary has been fairly good so far this year as well, so don't really love a side in this game, for being totally honest. I went to the props here. Give me Kenny Pickett to throw an interception for today's game.
All right, Josh, what do you think? Home underdogs have been atrocious this year, winning in just 7 of their 26 games this season, which does not bode well for the Steelers.
It doesn't bode well, but I think there is a reason to buy low on Pittsburgh. And by the way, Emerson, if you ever get down on yourself, you're not winning a ton of bets, here's a stat for you. No, you're a wise guy. I know you cash your plays. But dogs and favorites are 31 and 31 ATS so far this year. Talk about how good the odds makers are in the market that we have to beat as bettors. But that aside, 2 things going on with this game for me. Number 1, the line is definitely going to Pittsburgh, toward the Ravens, I should say. Ravens open as a short minus 2.5 road favorite. They've been bet up to 4.5. But I think at this point, there is some value, buy low value to take Pittsburgh in this spot. Number 1, the Ravens are getting 68% of bets, so they're a big public play. If you're laying the 4.5 now, they could roll and win by 5 or more, but you're getting the worst of it, and it's never a good idea to get the worst of the number after it's moved. So a couple reasons to buy low on Pittsburgh. Number 1, they're only getting 32% bets, but 50% of the money at DraftKings. So it tells me that only a third of bets, but half the money. Those bigger, sharper waiters are maybe buying low at this high water mark with the Steelers. Also, system match that I love, dogs off a blowout win of 20 points or more. Steelers got rolled by the Texans last week. You come back the next week in that spot, those teams are 3-1 ATS this year, and they're 95 and 57 ATS, 62% since 2018. Also, Mike Tomlin. You always got to throw out that Mike Tomlin stat as a dog. He's 2-1 ATS this year. He's 53 and 28 ATS in his career as a dog, 65%. At home, 16 and 5 ATS as a dog, 76%. And Lamar Jackson, laying 3 or more, he's only 20 and 29 against the spread. So we got a divisional dog. I'm not calling this a sharp play, but I think it's a value play at this point to take the 4.5. Maybe you can get a 5 before kickoff.
Well, Lamar Jackson has not played in the last 3 games versus Pittsburgh. His last meeting with them, December 5th, 2021, it was a 20-19 loss in which he was sacked 7 times. You mentioned the Texans. So the Texans are going to hit the road to face the Falcons here. This has been one of the more surprising teams in the NFL in a positive light. We're talking Houston here. So the Texans have won 2 consecutive outings. You have the Falcons, which have dropped their last 2 games. This is a clash of styles here, Josh.
Yeah, and I think this game to me is a test case of not getting locked into a bet too early in the week, because this thing has moved back and forth. It started off looking like it was a Texans play. A lot of these books opened, Falcons as high as minus 3.5. It got all the way down close to a pick'em, like minus 1.5, minus 1 Atlanta. And, if you're looking at this game Monday, Tuesday, you're like, okay, this is a pretty clear Texans play. They've been playing well. Stroud's looking great. However, we've seen a ton of buyback over the last few days on the Falcons. When it bottomed out around a pick'em, it then got steamed back up to Falcons minus 2.5. And Emerson, one of my favorite systems, are fading trendy dogs. When a dog becomes popular, remember, the public loves betting favorites. When they get latch onto a dog, that really, to me, speaks to a lot of public bias. So if you're a trendy dog in this spot, right now 74% of bets are taking the Texans. I got to go the other way with the late movement with the Falcons. This is a money line play for me around -135. And again, buy low, sell high. Houston's won 2 straight. Falcons lost 2 straight. I like this late movement. I'll go Falcons on the money line.
Yeah, Steve, Falcons are a fun team to watch if you're from 1957 and hate watching Kyle Pitts come anywhere close to a football.
Why don't they throw him the ball? I don't understand that.
I don't get it either. I mean, we talked about it yesterday in the show. Jonnu Smith, for crying out loud, is that team's leading receiver right now, not Kyle Pitts.
So,
oh yeah, go ahead, buddy.
So
go ahead.
Josh here has got his system.
Yep.
Okay. I feel like what Josh's system fails to do is actually watch these teams play.
Oh!
What has the Falcons shown that makes you want to take your hard-earned dollar? We're in a recession. Money is hard to come by these days. You're going to take out your wallet.
Through the roof.
You're going to take out your wallet and you go, you know what? Today's the day to back the freaking Falcons. Give me the underdog Texans all day, every day, and twice on Sundays, okay? Falcons are 1-3. I probably said that wrong, whatever. Falcons are 1-3 against the spread so far this season, failing to cover by an average of 4 points. The Falcons have no pass rush to speak of. You know who's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league with a clean pocket? That's been C.J. Stroud. He's been in a clean pocket here 63% of the time, has a 67% completion percentage, 9.5 yards per pass attempt in that scenario. All 6 of his touchdowns have come with the clean pocket, 79 adjusted completion percentage. Really the only guy you have to worry about in this game is A.J. Terrell. He has been one of the best cornerbacks in the league. So if that means that maybe he's not going to Nico Collins, he's going to go to Tank Dell. There's way too many ways that I can say the Texans can win this game, then the Falcons can win this game. Unless Heineke is playing in this game and they haven't announced it yet, Desmond Ridder is not leading them to victory today.
No, and Desmond Ridder has just been riddled by mistakes. And you do have
league in turnover-worthy plays with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Great company to be in.
Yeah. It's a Bijan Robinson hoping to feast against a bad Texans rush defense. Their pass defense is good. And by the way, a member of that pass defense, Shaq Griffin, will be on this program coming up later this morning.
Good tease.
Thank you very much. I'm getting better, right?
A little bit.
Panthers, Lions, Bukes. Lions are the feistier felines in this matchup, are they not? This is the second largest spread on the board. Lions, 9.5-point favorites currently on the DK Sportsbook at home.
Tough game because there's a lot of key injuries to the Lions in this game.
That's
They're going
right.
to be without Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And that's huge.
They're going to be without Gibbs. Is also looking like he's not going to be playing in this game as well. So I'm going to go to somebody who should be getting the ball a ton in this game. That's David Montgomery.
Love it.
His rushing yard prop is set at 82.5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Give me the over on that one there. This is somebody we saw touch the ball 34 times last week against the Packers, and that's with those guys healthy in that game. Now think about what they're going to do in this game against a poor Panthers run defense with those guys out this week as well. Panthers allowing over 5 yards per carry at this point, 6.8 yards per reception. You could take a rushing yards and receiving yards prop as well, but I like the rushing yards for Montgomery, 82.5. Give me the over on that.
Josh, another rough spot for Bryce Young, rookie on the road. Aiden Hutchinson, Charles Harris rushing you, trying to murder you.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game, I think, for Bryce Young. And again, this is a question to me of, do you still like the value of the number with the Lions? Because the Lions are definitely taking in the line movement. They open, as low as -7, -7.5. They got all the way up to 10. There was some buyback at +10 Carolina, bringing this line back down to 9.5. And again, you got to have these key numbers in the back of your head because they're so important. The 3, the 7, the 10, the 14. Again, if this ends up being, a Lions win by 10, the fact that you got anything below 10, you're going to be happy about. Now, the thing for me that's tough to back the Lions, number one, it's moved so much after opening around 7.5. The late movement is breaking back a little bit toward the Panthers. Also, the Lions are a really popular bet. They're getting around 70% of bets in dollars. I would say, though, big difference here is the offensive game. I mean, you look at the Lions, 27 points a game. That's one of the top scoring teams in the NFL. Only 17 points a game for Carolina. Dan Campbell, though, I mean, if you're going to lay the points, this is the stat you're banking on. He covers numbers at a ridiculous rate. He's 26-12 against the spread, 68% at home. He's 14-5 ATS, 74%. So I don't really want anything to do with this Emerson. It feels like a blowout for the Lions, but now they have injuries. Lions coming back the other way. I'd maybe be intrigued by the under 44, just if the Lions get up big and kind of run the ball and you don't get much offense out of Young.
Buke, Saints, Patriots. Pat's coming off the worst loss of the Bill Belichick era, He's looking for his 300th regular season win of his career. This could be the ugliest game of the day.
Just give me Saints over 19.5 points here. Pats don't have a secondary anymore. There is no secondary to speak of. Derek Carr under center today. This is how bad their secondary is. They just acquired somebody named J.C. Jackson. We know he was with the Patriots before. 70% reception rate last year in coverage. 19.5 yards per reception. You know what his Instagram username is?
What is it?
Mr. Interception. You know what the last time he had an interception was? 988 days ago.
Okay.
Tough look to call yourself Mr. Interception when you haven't had an interception 988 days. Give me the Saints over 19.5 points.
Josh, under a minute to go in this block. Giants, Dolphins, talk to me here. This could get very ugly for the Giants in a very hot and heated and moist South Florida.
Yeah, and you know about hot, heated South Florida here.
Yeah,
so that's where you're from. So this is going to be a tough game for the G-men going in. Huge difference on offense. You have the highest scoring team in the NFL, Dolphins, 37 points a game. The lowest scoring offense in the NFL, the Giants, only 12 points per game. This line is moving a ton toward Miami. You know, they're all the way up to laying 12.5. This might get to 13 before the end of our show. I mean, I don't like laying big points here, but to me, I'd lean a little bit with Miami winning by, 2 touchdowns.
That could get ugly. The whole slate kicks off in 1 hour as Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence collide across the pond. Let's see which bets Josh and Steve are chasing and which ones they are fading for Jags Bills after this. Great news for the Bills, bad news for the Jaguars. Von Miller is officially back. The Bills announcing they've activated the edge rusher to the 53-man roster, clearing the way for him to play against the Jaguars in London this morning, about an hour and 15 minutes from now. Miller had told reporters on Friday that it was highly likely that he would play on Sunday's game. So the Bills here, guys, going to try to continue their onslaught against the rest of the NFL. They've been absolutely hot. Let's show you the tail of the tape. So this is a different continent, though. This is one that the Jags feel comfortable on here, guys. They were here last week, beaten up on the Falcons. Buffalo, though, has posted 3 consecutive blowout victories since losing its season opener against the Jets in overtime. Oh, yeah, and each of the Bills' wins have been by at least 28 points, including last week's 48-20 thumping over Miami. So chase or fade time. I love this segment. So you chase, agree, or fade, disagree here. Chase or fade. The Bills win over the Dolphins last week proved that they will win the AFC East and collide with the Chiefs in the conference championship game. Steve.
Yeah, I'll fade this one. I think
I like that.
Both of these teams have fairly easy schedules coming up. So I don't feel like we're going to really get any sort of separation between the two of these teams. You look at the Dolphins, next 4 games, they have the Giants, Panthers, Eagles, and Patriots. After the Jaguars, the Bills have the Giants, Patriots, Buccaneers, and Bengals. We'll see what that Bengals team looks like in about a month or so, but it's not really like either team has the advantage over the other because all those games, with the exception of the Dolphins against the Eagles, feel like winnable games. And again, maybe that Bills versus Bengals game isn't either, but like you could easily write down 3 wins for both of these teams.
Okay.
But these teams could easily both go 3-1 over the next 4 games after this week here. So I don't think there's going to be any real separation here. So at least for now, I think it's a fade for me.
What do you want to do here, Josh? Because on the DK Sportsbook, odds are telling me these are the 2 teams that are going to be there. Chiefs plus 300 to win the AFC. Bills right behind him plus 380.
Yeah, I think I'm going to tail this. So I like what Buffalo's doing right now. Number one, the fact you bounced back from that season-opening loss where the sky was falling and Josh Allen looked terrible, threw a bunch of picks. Well, don't look now, Emerson. Josh Allen's now the favorite for MVP, plus 380. So they've really turned this thing around. Now, if you look at kind of the division odds right now, they're both kind of a coin flip right now between the Bills and the Dolphins. Now, the Bills are minus 120, Dolphins are plus 110, but now the Bills have a win over Miami. They're going to, as of right now, have a tiebreaker. Miami, to me, I love their offense. I'm just wondering about their defense. To me, Buffalo, you had a big loss here, obviously losing Tre'Davious White in the back end, but now you're getting Von Miller back. When it gets deep into the playoffs and you got the rain, the wind, the snow, the bad weather, I think that's really what Buffalo's built for versus Miami and kind of the hotter weather down south. But to me, this is a chase. I like what I'm seeing out of the Bills right now. If Josh Allen continues to not turn the ball over, this offense continues to grow. I think if you can play the minus 120 Bills win the AFC, that's a pretty good number because they were much higher when the season before the season started.
And what's crucial for them right now is they're not turning the ball over. That's what Josh Allen had such a massive problem doing, especially in the red zone.
Even in the first couple games of the year, it was. Yeah. But he's improved on that the past few games. Yes.
Like over the previous 3 weeks, the Bills have averaged 41 points per game. They've turned the ball over just once in that stretch. Now, in that same span here, guys, the Jags haven't scored more than 23 points in a single game, reaching the end zone only 4 times. So chase or fade for me here. If the Jags lose this morning in London, you are buying more AFC South futures for them. Josh?
I think that's
like a buy low spot here.
I agree, but I wouldn't bet it right now. I think, and we're going to get this, I don't want to break your heart, Emerson.
It's okay, just be real.
The line's going to Buffalo, so let's just say Buffalo wins this game in London today. You're going to get a better number on the Jags. Right now, they're plus 145 to win the division. I mean, the odds makers still like Jacksonville to win this division. Titans are plus 235. Colts are plus 380. Texans have been an exciting team to start, but they're plus 475. Jags win total right now is 8.5, but it's over minus 125. I think it was 9.5 going throughout the summer, much of the summer. So to me, I think this speaks to the timing of your bet. Like if you can think or you expect based on obviously the odds, and we see upsets all the time, but let's just say they lose today. I think you wait, you're going to get a better number here. I still like the Jags, plus 145 to win the division. They lose today. Does that fall to plus 165, plus 170? I think that's the angle. I still like them to win that AFC South.
And something to consider too, Steve, you have the Colts and the Titans playing each other today as well.
Yeah, I honestly I think this is an opportunity to maybe look at the Texans.
Yeah.
They have
I don't hate that. I've said it for the past 2 weeks. They have the best quarterback in the AFC South currently, and they're the best team, and they're doing more with less.
They are doing more with less too, and then they have one of the easiest schedules remaining in the entire league.
Okay.
If you look at the opponents that they have left, They still have the Titans twice, the Falcons, Panthers, Broncos, Jets. Those feel like all winnable games at this point. You look at the Jaguars. They got a tough schedule the rest of the way. They have the Bills today. They have the Colts divisional matchup there. Saints, Steelers. We'll see what that team looks like.
Jonathan Taylor back with the Colts now, too.
Yeah, and that's all before their bye in Week 9. And then, we'll still see what happens when they play the Bengals there. But, if at least schedule comparison, it definitely favors the Texans at this point. If they can continue to play at this level that they're playing at, it's hard to not notice them, especially with the longest odds to win that division when it's basically 0-0. We're at Week 1 right now with how these teams are.
Yeah, plus 475 for the Texans right now to win the AFC South. Josh, you just mentioned Josh Allen as the favorite right now for MVP. You're chasing or fading that?
I'm going to fade that. I'm really surprised by this move. Obviously, you've seen this great offensive output from the Bills the last 3 games after that disappointing Week 1 opener. But plus 380, that's a huge move. I'm surprised that Tua's fallen. Obviously, you lose that game in Buffalo. That was kind of a big win for Allen, a loss for Tua. But Tua's plus 500. If you look at the numbers right now, Tua's putting up better numbers than Josh Allen. Josh Allen has a passer rating here of, 106. 0.7. That's pretty much tied
he
with
was
Russell
perfect
Wilson
last week.
Yeah, he looked really good. So you got to give him that.
rating.
And again, this market is going to move so much on a week-to-week basis. I think the goal is not try to chase something after it happens, but predict it before it happens. But I don't think Brock Purdy's going to win MVP. But Purdy's got a better rating. Tua has a better rating. I think the value play, Emerson, is the best player in the league, Patrick Mahomes, plus 550. Mahomes has done it before. I think he relishes the fact that maybe these other teams are getting the spotlight. As long as there's no Taylor Swift curse here, I think there's a play here to back Mahomes plus 550.
Don't mention Taylor Swift around Steve.
No one cares. First and foremost, let's just be totally honest.
Okay.
The MVP award is the biggest bunch of BS that you have in the league right now. It's a quarterback award.
Yes.
If you look at the odds right now, you're telling me that Deshaun Watson at 55-1 has better odds than someone like Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson. That's absolutely ridiculous. But this award just does go to quarterbacks. So whatever, I'll just put my bias aside and whatever. Josh Allen at 380 is a horrible number. I don't like this number at all. Because, if you look at his individual stats, nothing is really, popping off for him. He's 8th in passing yards. He's tied for 3rd in passing touchdowns. He does lead the league in completion percentage amongst eligible quarterbacks, but he's also 13th in pass attempts. For what he's done so far, has he been good?
Yeah.
Sure.
Perhaps
is he MVP? Let me finish.
Okay.
Has he been good? Sure. Has he been MVP good? No, I don't see it yet. Josh was right there. For Tua, because he lost that game going at 5-1. Still, I don't like taking MVPs this early because so much can happen, especially in this league. But that would be my choice if I had to choose right now, Tua, or I might even look at Jalen Hurts at 7-1 at this point. But Josh Allen at plus 380, I'm not crazy about that at all.
Even talking to Stormy yesterday here on the Sweat, she said she had $100. A little bit of that would be sprinkled potentially on Christian McCaffrey, seeing how the rest of the season plays out for the 49ers. Chaser fade Trevor Lawrence's passing prop today, 247.5 yards here, Steve, which, again, I think the Bills have allowed only one quarterback to surpass. Up to 249 now.
I do like this one, and a lot of it has to do with the loss of Tre'Davious White. That's going to be big for the Jacksonville Jaguars here. That's going to get another guy open for them. That's somebody who, before he went down with that injury, was targeted against 15 times, allowed just 9 receptions, 6.7 yards per reception. Just absolutely
up
ridiculous.
To 250.5 now.
Yeah, we're watching the show. People are like, oh, we got to chase it.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
60 total yards and only 16 yards after the catch for Tre'Davious White. Bills don't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and Lawrence has only been under pressure on 30% of his dropbacks so far. So when he's been kept clean, 74% completion rate, adjusted completion percentage, 83%. That's one of the highest in the league at this point. So without Tre'Davious White, I think Lawrence goes over this number, especially as almost a touchdown underdog at this point.
Okay, Josh, what do you think here? Because Lawrence himself, I think, has beaten this number just once this year as well.
Yeah, my initial thought is to go under, but obviously the market is moving up a little bit. It just went from 247.5 to 250. I would look toward a different prop here. If you look at his touchdowns, Emerson, it's 1.5. And it feels like that's pretty easy, right? You just throw 2 TDs, you can cash that over. But the under is minus 150. And you know this, Emerson. He's only had 4 touchdowns in 4 games. He's gone to this prop under 1.5.
Yeah,
3-1, 3 out of 4 games here. So that's probably what I would look toward. And then just want to throw this stat at you, because if you are going to bet the over yardage prop, I think you're hoping that, they're down big, they're down 14. He's going to get a lot of garbage points in the second half and the fourth quarter. But here's where it gets a little nervous for you, Emerson, as a Jags fan.
Oh, boy.
International favorites. If the game's just played not in America, somewhere else, Favorites are 30-9 straight up, 77%. They're 26-14 ATS,
All right, buddy.
65%. So that's not good news for the Jags. And again, it might be good news though if you're going to go over and get some garbage points with the prop.
All right, so then you're telling me you're fading Jags on the money line.
Well, here's the thing. If we can get a 6, I'm intrigued. Jags 6, they could lose, but can they? That's a key number.
I mean, we're talking just straight money line here, Steve. Come on, dude. This is the world's team, man.
I understand.
We were watching the video before
They have a lot of
the show.
experience there, true.
All the fans over there
Yeah.
absolutely loving the Jaguars.
Well, that's nice.
All right, we're visiting the second half of the early slate of games coming up. One that pairs Patty Mayonnaise and Captain Kirk. The history they're aiming for, plus which side Steve and Josh are backing. The relationship between the Colts and running back Jonathan Taylor went sideways after owner Jim Irsay decided to speak out on the effort of all running backs to get more. Now, you can see it on your screen, Irsay has given Taylor even more. We have extended Jonathan,
How nice.
he said on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. So, the Colts today taking on the Titans, as we mentioned in the previous block. Gentlemen, your expectations for Jonathan Taylor here, Steve, I feel like they're not going to feel much pressure to overutilize him here because he hasn't played since what? Last December.
Yeah.
And the Colts have enjoyed some rushing success with veteran Zach Moss carrying the load the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's just such a weird relationship.
It really is. This was a shocker.
They didn't want to give him anything. We'll entertain a trade. Then they were asking for like a king's ransom, like what was it, Jalen Waddle and a first rounder or something. Like it's just so odd. But like I'll be interested to see how they kind of get him into the mix here, especially with how this offense has been running and the dynamic of this offense now. So I'm kind of holding back on Taylor here, especially for this week at least. But just what a weird set of events, I guess you could say.
It has been super odd. I knew the entire world was shocked because no one expected him to actually get money. Now he's one of the highest paid running backs in the league, which just completely contradicts what Irsay originally tweeted like a couple months ago here, Josh. I don't know. I haven't seen like his prop numbers, but like, is this a stay away spot for you? Just let him ease into it a little bit?
I think so. I'm a little wary of any time a star player comes back. I know we have Cooper Kupp coming back today, but it's just tough not knowing the physical standpoint of these players, as well as are the markets getting these players right? Because they're great players, but Emerson, it's like anything in life. If you do something a lot, then you don't do it very often, and you do it again. Are you expecting the same output? I would say no. My angle here is I like the spread bet on this game, or actually the money line play on the Tennessee Titans. Titans, to me, are a bet today. I love the fact that they flipped dog to favorite. This game actually opened Indianapolis Colts laying 1.5 at home. It's now flipped to Titans minus 2.5. Yeah. So, Steve, I know you're not a big fan of all my systems, but I always like it when you flip dog to favorite. Just tells me that a lot of money caused that designation of who should win the game to flip. Also, you look at the bet splits here. Only about 45% of bets are on Tennessee, yet the line's moving in their favor. They're getting like 60% of money. And if Jonathan Taylor is this great player who's going to affect the number, he's in, yet the line is still going to Tennessee. I think that speaks volumes to maybe how running backs aren't as valued when it comes to the spread. It's all about quarterbacks. And then also, you look at road favorites this year, guys. They're 14-11 ATS, 56%. But on the money line, just winning the game, road favorites are 19-8. That's 70% straight up. So even though Taylor's in, I'm going to take Tennessee. I like this dog to fave line move. Got the Titans on the money line, minus 135.
Steve, Titans 0-2 on the road. They lost 16-15 to the Saints in week 1, 27-3 to the Browns back in week 3. And by the way, just going back to Jonathan Taylor real quick, plus 140 anytime touchdown score.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they use him in the red zone. So that's probably the only prop that I'd be entertained with here. But I do kind of like Titans minus 2.5 as well. I mean, the biggest thing for me is that the way to beat the Titans is through the air. Like, they're a huge pass funnel defense. That's not been the strength for the Colts, and that's really not the strength of Anthony Richardson. 57% completion percentage through the air, only 6.7 yards per attempt. I mean, he's been taking good care of the ball when he's been throwing it, but like, that's not how the Colts are going to beat a team there. Titans are 3-1 against the spread already, but this is the first time that they've been a favorite so far, and they've just won some outright games against the Bengals, which, obviously that team's been banged up, and the Chargers, but really, was that more of a Colts win, or was that more of a Brandon Staley loss? But nonetheless, the record is what it is. So I would be back on the Titans there. It's gross for me. I don't like that Titans team at all, but in this matchup, I think they do cover.
And I know Joe Burrow's banged up, but the Titans limited Smokin' Joe to his 4th lowest passing yards total as an NFL starter. Now the Bengals 1-3 here. They're in trouble. They look broken. They're visiting the Cardinals, who I think have played above expectations up to this point. We know the Dallas upset. Joe Burrow calling this a must win. It's tough to disagree with him, Steve.
No, without a doubt. Like, they need this win, which is amazing to think about in week 5 against the Cardinals.
He's not
they're
right,
like,
though.
we need this. This team needs to beat the Cardinals. My favorite bet in this game is a player prop, and it's for Joshua Dobbs. His rushing capability has been incredible. Like, I feel like that's not being talked about enough. His rushing prop for today is set at 21.5. Bengals have allowed the 5th most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks already on the year. Dobbs is averaging 6 rushing attempts and 35 per game at this point. He is not afraid to run the ball if he needs to. So against this defense that has been allowing a lot of rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks to begin with, feels like a pretty easy total for him to go over, especially when he's averaging almost 14 yards more per game at this rate. So give me him to go over 21.5 rushing yards. I love this prop for today.
Josh, go figure the Bengals will once again need to save their season. This is incredible. Week 5, Joe Burrow doesn't look right. He's down T. Higgins. Running game is inconsistent with Joe Mixon. The offensive line hasn't played well.
It really hasn't. He's got his money, though, Emerson. He's going to be okay. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Right?
He gets the money, then it's like,
a Madden curse. Now it's like the big contract curse. But to me, this is all about the hook in this game. I actually like Arizona. I know this is going to sound terrible and gross, and you don't want to touch this one. But look at what the market's doing. It's moving toward Arizona in this spot. You had Cincinnati, and the look-ahead number, I think it was high as like -7, kind of reopen around like 5.5, 5, somewhere around there. And the public is saying, I think just kind of conventional wisdom, Burrow's great. Cincy, yeah, they haven't looked good, but they're going to get on track. Their win total, by the way, is now 8.5 under -150 in the adjusted market here. But the fact that since he's getting almost 60% of bets, yet this thing keeps falling toward Arizona. Arizona, again, was getting as high as 7, 6, 5. Now it's down to 3. It's really juiced up. I think if you are playing Arizona, you got to get the hook there, the 3.5. You do have that stat I mentioned a minute ago where these road favorites are winning 70% of the time. But big injury here. T. Higgins not likely to play. That makes them very kind of, not one-dimensional, but you always love it when you have Higgins one side and Chase on the other. Now I think they can key on Chase. Again, maybe get some scoring here. The total rose 42 to 45. But if you can get the hook on the 3.5, I'll hold my nose and go Arizona.
I mean, Cardinals are 3-1 ATS this season. Bengals have yet to cover the spread, going 0-3-1, and they've lost 24-3, 27-3 on the road. How about Chiefs-Vikings here, guys? Only team Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes, has not beaten in the NFL is Minnesota. A win today, and he becomes the youngest quarterback to beat the league's 31 other teams. Do you believe he does it? I do believe that Taylor Swift will not be in attendance, but could be surprised.
Who cares? Like, this is a betting show. This is not TMZ Live. Like, we don't care if Taylor Swift is in
TMZ Live gets good ratings.
I don't give a crap. So do we.
That's true.
Here's the thing about Chiefs-Vikings, and we talked about this on the show a little bit yesterday. It's a low spread, but the Chiefs just continuously don't cover spreads. Like, they have been so bad for as good as this Chiefs team has been. They're constantly in these tight games, or when they're huge favorites, they don't seem to cover. Dating back to last year, the Chiefs are now 10-13-1 against the spread since 2022. As a road favorite against the spread since dating back to last year, which they are again here today, they're 4-6 against the spread. So there's some matchups here that I do like for the Chiefs, like Pacheco going up against this Minnesota run defense is a good one here. Kelsey going up against them is obviously that he's matchup proof at this point. But the Vikings still have a lot of other good guys on their offense as well. Irv Smith Jr., not Irv Smith Jr., Jordan Addison alongside of Justin Jefferson going up against a pretty questionable secondary at this point. I just think the Vikings can cover in this spot. I don't know if they're going to win. They're plus 160 on the money line, but I think just with how bad the Chiefs have been at covering the spread, I do like them at plus 3.5.
Josh Cousins can make this thing interesting late, at home and build on his league-leading 11 touchdown passes.
Yeah, I'm with Steve on this one. I like the points here in Minnesota. I mean, Steve gave you all the reasons why in terms of KC not covering numbers. And then also, even when they're covering numbers, they do things like slide and not score and screw over people who lay the points with them. So it's always, I think, with the Kansas City Chiefs, not that these players have the spread in mind, but remember, they're doing things to win the game, not cover the number. And they really haven't covered a lot of numbers here going on multiple years now for the Chiefs. Flip it the other way. Cousins as a dog, 57% ATS. He has covered numbers in this spot. That's kind of Cousins, kind of what we know of him in his career. Maybe not coming up huge in the big games, but competing, losing, but making it close. And the market is moving toward Minnesota. Kansas City, week in, week out. They're going to be one of the most heavily bet teams, most popular teams. They're getting 78% of bets today, but the line is moving toward Minnesota. This was as high as, -6.5 at one point. It's all the way down to 3.5. Does it get to 3? I'm not sure, but it is juiced up like it may get down to 3. So to me, it's a spot where you take the Vikings here. Maybe the Kansas City Chiefs eke out a 3-point win. If you're playing the Chiefs, I think you got to go money line and pay that price just to protect yourself against maybe sliding and not scoring at the end.
Bukes, the undefeated Eagles have looked vulnerable against quarterbacks and top wide receivers. They're on the road. Cooper Kupp is back for LA. How does this play out?
Yeah, so I don't really like a side in this one in particular.
Okay.
I do like a plop in this one. Jalen Hurts go over 289.5 passing and rushing yards. For as good as the Rams offense has been, their defense has still been pretty poor at this point. We just saw Anthony Richardson go for 30 DraftKings fantasy points, and that was only for throwing 200 passing yards. The rest he did on the ground here. Ran the ball 10 times, 56 yards. I think Hurts does more of that here today.
All right, very quickly here, Josh. Jets, Broncos. This is the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game here. I'll give you 20 seconds.
Yeah, real quick. I like Denver in this spot. Everyone's betting the Jets. They're a really trendy dog. They're getting almost 80% of bets. This game looked early toward the Jets. I know it was like -3 Denver, got down to 1, but all the late movement is going back toward Denver. They have a much better offense. Anytime I see a dog getting 70% or more, I got to fade them just like I'm fading, who was it before? Team playing Atlanta.
This may be the most motivated we see.
You like Atlanta too much.
I got to trust the market. It's not that I like them, it's that some people way sharper
What's
than me
going
like
on? Let's see if potentially a player on Atlanta lands on the list of top prop plays for Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich. They will join the program coming up. We're propped up. Back here live on a Sunday edition of The Sweat, everybody. I am Emerson Latzia. The Week 5 Sunday slate officially kicking off in about 45 minutes. Jags and I almost said the Falcons. Jags and Bills in London. Jags-Falcons was last week. That was a win. And Trevor Lawrence, Jeff Ulrich, and Pierce Dietrich will reportedly be knighted after this game after he throws for 8 touchdowns and 500 yards against Buffalo. Let's see what else is cooking in the props department while you two are here. What is a prop that you like in this game, Jeff Ulrich?
Well, unfortunately, I like talking about the other team in this game, the Buffalo Bills. I know it's blasphemy that we're going up against Prince Trevor here, but Dalton Kincaid, I think, is in a very good spot to break out. Jaguars defense not been great against opposing tight ends this year. They've allowed the second most targets overall to the position. 4th most fantasy points if you care about things like that, but two receiving touchdowns as well. Tend to just shade things towards the middle of the field. And I think Kincaid, if you look at his usage from last week, he's caught over 4 passes in 3 or 4 games this year. You can go over 3.5 receptions on the DraftKings Sportsbook for an alternate line. I was sitting around plus 140, plus 150. But, the other thing you can do, you can just look for Dalton Kincaid in the anytime touchdown department, potentially pair him with these reception props. For a same game parlay as well. It's plus 300 to score an anytime touchdown. Again, like his usage is there. It's creeping up a little bit week to week. He's looking like a good connection with Josh Allen. He's playing a really weaker defense in terms of just defense back there in terms of the safety linebacker coverage. So I really like Dalton Kincaid to just kind of break out today, regardless of how you play it, over yards, over receptions, or a touchdown.
I love that. But I also love the fact that people just think Dawson Knox doesn't exist anymore when he's the second leading target getter inside the red zone with 5 for Buffalo. Pierce, what do you like for a prop for Jags Bills today in London?
Let's go with Cook, giving the over on rushing. It looks like the Bills are kind of turning more into a rushing attack, more so than the last couple seasons, leaning on the running back. He may not get as much red zone work, but outside of the red zone, he has been their main running back and a main threat. I know he's had some big chunk plays this season, but even if you take away the chunk plays in those games, he's went over his rushing total. There are blowout concerns. I know you don't want to hear that. Yeah, typically blowouts are good, but not for Buffalo. They just keep on passing. We saw last week in the easy win, Cook didn't go over his total, so that is a little bit of a worry. Hopefully the Jags keep this semi-close and the Cook can go over his rushing total.
All right, dudes. We know last week, and we'll head to that 1 o'clock window now, Miami hit a little speed bump against the Bills. That was an impressive win by Buffalo, but should be a bounce-back spot here for the Dolphins against the Giants. What do you think, Pierce? Are you looking at the Dolphins' offense for a prop, maybe Tyreek Hill going off?
Well, I'm going to kind of bend the rules here a little bit. I am going to look for a Dolphins touchdown, but not from their offense, from their defense. And I know people say, Daniel Jones isn't going to throw a pick 6 2 weeks in a row. He isn't. Why not? It's Daniel Jones we're talking about. You look at this situation, New York's offense not playing very well, could get into a track meet with the Dolphins. That's going to force Jones and the offense to be very aggressive, and they're probably going to be slinging tablets on the sidelines. It doesn't look like a good situation. If I think that there's going to be a time for a defensive touchdown from the Dolphins, it's going to be in one of these games where the Giants are, kind of on their heels, being forced to be aggressive, and mistakes can happen when you don't have a very good team and the receivers aren't getting separation.
Plus 450 anytime touchdown score for that unit there. Jeff Ulrich, you have something to say?
Same line of thinking, to be honest. How is Miami going to score here? How are they going to rack up the yards? I like going over on their running back props quite a bit. I think one thing we saw the last time they were favored by, quite a bit of points. Actually, they weren't really favored by that many points over Denver, but let's say the last time they were up against a defense this low in the, defensive DVOA ratings, just overall defensive stats, they put up 70 points. The running backs went absolutely nuts. I think going over on Raheem Mostert props, over on total yards, over on longest rush, makes plenty of sense. Obviously the rookie is there, Devin Akane as well. And you could go over on both. You could potentially play the alternate yardages here as well, like Akane for over 100 yards. I think that's where I want to attack this Giants defense. In terms of yards per play, yards per carry against, this is a well below average team. They're a terrible tackling team. In a lot of ways, New York is like Denver NFC version. I think that you can almost peg them in that sort of regard here as well. We also have just a million Daniel Jones primetime games this year for some reason. So I think that the Miami running backs are in a really good spot. I actually worry a little bit that the volume won't be there for guys like Jalen Waddle. So potentially an under target there, but I really like going over on the Miami running backs this week.
Yeah, it was that game they put up the 70 burger, that Mostert and Devon Achane combined to score 8 touchdowns. That was after that game too. Devon Achane decided to change the pronunciation of his last name to Achane. So big total, big numbers expected in this Kansas City Vikings matchup here. So Mahomes and Kirk Cousins, big passing yard numbers right now. I'm looking at DK Sportsbook because this thing has just kept changing. So Kirk Cousins, 294.5, 292.5 now for Mahomes. That thing's up like 7 yards compared to yesterday when producer Drew put this script together. What are we looking at? Which one is more likely to go over here, Pierce?
I'm going to go with Cousins. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. But those are some pretty bold numbers. It tells us a lot about each defense. So the teams are going to be moving the ball. The teams are going to be scoring points. This one could also turn into a track meet. And sometimes it's hard to predict where Mahomes is going to go. It's not as hard to predict where Cousins is going to go, and it's not hard to predict that he's just going to keep winging the ball. We know their offense has played well, but on the year, Cousins ranks third in yards per game. Kansas City at times can just be more efficient and maybe not, be really piling up the yards, whereas we know Cousins will just wing it, and stack the yards. So give me the over on Cousins.
Yeah, that's what it's been like this season, Jeff Ulrich. It's been the Vikings trailing a little bit, and then Kirk Cousins just throwing the hell out of the football, which is why his stats are through the roof.
Yeah, I actually think Minnesota's going to be able to run the ball a little bit here, especially with Akers in the backfield now. Give me Patrick Mahomes for the over, to be honest. I actually like this one quite a bit. Here's a stat. In 3 games where he's thrown an interception and gotten under 225 passing yards for his career, the Chiefs are 3-0 ATS the next week, and they've scored 40, 51, 48 points. That's per the Action Network. So, Patrick Mahomes right now, I think he'll bounce back. And I think that the way you attack Minnesota, regardless, is through the air. The run defense has been pretty good in spots for the most part. I think that also the Minnesota offense is going to put just a little bit more pressure on Kansas City. I think that the over here has a good chance of hitting. So give me Patrick Mahomes to the over. I think there's a reason that number has been moving so violently in that direction. I think you're going to see a big bounce back from Mahomes just in terms of overall stats this week.
Kirk Cousins will either get his first career win over the Chiefs, or Patrick Mahomes will get his first career win over the Vikings today, or, unless it ends in a tie, which would be vomit-inducing. Give us another quarterback prop you like today, Jeff Ulrich.
Another quarterback prop. I like the Rams a lot. I think their offense is absolutely going to explode this week against the Philadelphia Eagles, whose secondary has been very subpar this year, especially just in the pass coverage. Obviously, they're down to 16th in yards per pass attempt against. They were first last year. Obviously, we just saw Sam Howell put up a bunch of points against the Stephens. That's not good considering what we saw on Thursday Night Football. Give me the over here on Matthew Stafford, but I mean, you can play this for just a traditional over prop, -105 to go over 277.5, but like 300 plus yards here for Matthew Stafford, who's second, by the way, in passing yards in the league. The Rams come in, they're 10th in pass rate as well. They're going to chuck the ball. Cooper Kupp is back. Like, I just feel like the Rams getting very undervalued, sort of overlooked in this spot. I think Matthew Stafford's going to have a big day. Give me the over on his yards.
What do you think, Pierce?
How about this Debbie Downer pick? Give me the under on Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I've been fooled by Joe Burrow too many times this season. He says this is the healthiest he's been. Yeah, well, yeah, every week he's probably going to get a little bit healthier, but he's not 100%. And this offense is just way too one-dimensional. They've got to get him back under center. You're not going to fool other teams in the NFL when you're running everything out shotgun. It's just really limited in what they can do. And the offense looks terrible. I don't care if you're facing the Arizona Cardinals. It's not going to matter that much. This offense is broken until Burrow is completely healed. His receivers are not healthy. Jamar Chase doesn't look that good, and he's getting double-teamed, and it's just a mess. So under on Burrow's passing total.
All right, guys, minute to go in this block. Maybe you go under Jamar Chase in the props department. What's a wide receiver prop you like, Pierce, quickly?
Brandon Ayuk going with the over. I know it's a tough matchup against Dallas, but Dallas hasn't really played very many teams this year. And Debo, it looks like he'll be maybe out of this game. Okay. Ayuk and Purdy have a good connection.
That's going to be the game of the week. Jeff Ulrich, wide receiver prop.
I was going to end it on a good note for you, pal. Let's go over Calvin Ridley.
There he is.
Receiving yards, maybe even a Calvin Ridley touchdown. Tre'Davious White is out. I expect this to be a pretty close back and forth game. Regardless, I think Calvin Ridley is a good over target.
All right, gentlemen. Any running back prop you like, Jeff? Really quick.
Oh, Breece Hall to score a touchdown. I mean, absolutely. Like, what are we thinking about here? It's Denver.
Pierce Dietrich?
CMC over.
Oh, my God. CMC is going to be like minus 600 by the end of the year to be an anytime touchdown scorer. It's absolutely unbelievable. We'll poke over to the land of DFS coming up. Price Check is next.
Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Josh Applebaum. We just have 1 hour down. We got 1 more hour to go. We got a ton to get to. Primetime previews. Steve Emerson and I will talk about our primetime plays for Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, also D'Amico Ryans. We're going to hit on him and the Houston Texans. Are you believing in the Texans? I'm not today. Steve is. That'll be a fun conversation. And
yeah,
cornering the market with Steve and Emerson right after we're done here. But you know what? I want to spend some time talking about betting splits. And this is something that I focus on quite a bit, and I get a lot of questions about. So we're going to do a little tutorial here with the betting splits. Now, if you're ever looking at data, you're wondering where this is coming from, very simple. Bookmark this, VSiN.com/splits. We get it right from DraftKings, put it right on the homepage of VSiN. So what do all these numbers mean? The very first thing that you need to know are kind of a couple rules of the road. Number one, we're breaking down all the bets in terms of different bet types. So we have the spread, which is the most popular way to bet sports when it comes to football and basketball. Then we're looking at the total. So you have the breakdown of both the over and the under. And then also you're going to have money. Now this is money line. This is just who's going to win the game. I pretty much ignore the money line because really the money line isn't a big popular bet when it comes to football. So really you're focusing on the total and the spread. Now, the first thing I look at when I'm looking at betting splits, I'm a contrarian bettor. I like to bet against the public. Will the public win here and there? Sure. They'll win big games. They could have a big day. They could have a big week. But typically, long-term, the house always wins. So therefore, I want to bet against what the masses are doing. So using the betting splits, easiest thing to look for right off the bat is this column right here, bets. This is going to give you the percentage of bets on both sides. So what you're looking for are really lopsided bets here. So for example, Emerson, you're going to like this. Bills are very, very popular today, 81% of bets. Now, if you don't know what this means, you're like, oh, that's great. I'm with the public. That means that must mean the Bills are going to win and cover, right? Well, they could win and cover, but to me, this is a red flag if you want to bet Buffalo, just that they're so popular. So if they win and cover, that means the books are going to take a hit. Books aren't used to taking hits. To me, these are the numbers you want to bet against. Miami, that's a red flag. They're getting 84% of bets. You also look at Houston, Steve. This is why I want to bet against the Texans.
Whoa.
They're getting 73% of bets. The New York Jets, 71%. The Kansas City Chiefs, 78%. San Francisco is very popular. So right off the bat, it doesn't mean you automatically fade all these teams, but to me, that's a red flag if they're very popular. If anything, it makes me want to lay off them, if not bet against them. So those are the most public plays. Look at it the other way. Your top contrarian plays would be betting the opposite side. So holding your nose and going G-men, holding your nose and going Jaguars. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of where the public is. Always remember, public is where the bets are. Then also the other thing I like to do is look at bet versus dollar discrepancies. Compare the percentage of bets to the handle. Handle is just the amount of money that's been wagered on the game. So perfect example, if you look at the Falcons, that's right. Where can we find the Falcons here? They are, let's see, right here. So they're only getting 27% of bets, but 48% of the money. Now, when I'm looking at these bet splits, what that tells me is they're only getting a quarter of tickets, but half the money. So thinking through that logically, that means that the wagers on the Falcons are most likely bigger wagers coming from respected bettors. So always look for discrepancies where a team is getting at least 10% more money than bets. And then also you can do this with totals as well. So I'll give an example of a total here that caught my eye. The Steelers. If you look toward the under in this game, the under is only getting 46% of bets, but 71% of the money. So public is leaning over, but all the bigger, sharper wagers seem to be going under. And then you can also tap these, the names of the teams. You can get a full line history. And if you look at the total here, I think it opened around 42. It's down to 38. So also you're looking at how the line is moving compared to the betting percentages. Another one that I would look toward would be the Dolphins under. That's only getting 22% of bets, but 43% of the money. So again, will every single, contrarian play win? No. Will every single low bets, higher dollar play win? No. But these are the little angles that if you're a data-driven bettor, you want to focus on, because it's not the entire handicap, but it's going to tell you where the market is. Will the market always be right? No, but if you can apply and check off as many boxes as you can, looking at going against the public with the sharps, bet versus dollar discrepancy plays, that's really a wheelhouse for me as a data-driven bettor. So if you have any more questions, again, we have this vsin.com/splits page. A lot of great info here. So now that I blew your mind, Steve, and why the Falcons are going to win this game today because of the data, how about you give me a price check here, you and Emerson?
Steve, you know what?
Hey, this guy is obsessed with the Falcons.
I know that, and you clearly are not, because in terms of price check, when we're looking at some of the top players, the following salary ranges here, there is not a single Falcons player on your list.
Well, why would there be?
I do not know.
Right.
We know how much you do not like the Falcons compared to how much Josh does.
I mean, look, good luck. I hope he wins his bet. I would never bet on that.
Yeah, good luck to you, Josh. At quarterback, you are going with a man at $8,000, second highest price quarterback on the main slate today.
Yeah, I do like Jalen Hurts. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show here, and we talked about how good the Rams offense has been, but defensively they have really struggled, and I think that's where this is really going to come into play when you think about this offensive scheme that the Eagles have been running here. I mentioned earlier as well, we just saw Anthony Richardson, who is not someone who is a good passer, just had over 31 DraftKings fantasy points in that game, and that was with him only throwing for 200 yards. The rest of the production came on the ground. He had a rushing touchdown in that game. He had a bunch of rushing yards too as well. He ran the ball 10 times for 56 yards in that touchdown I mentioned about. Hurts has been running the ball a lot too as well. That was one of the knocks that we had against him last year. He wasn't running the ball a ton in the beginning of the year. Already this year, he's ran the ball at least 9 times every single game that he's played, averaging 3.5 rushing yards. I think this is a great spot for him against the Rams, which could be sneaky shootout here today.
Yeah, and the Eagles have been like flirting with disaster, with fire, but Hurts has been playing well enough for them to win. And for fantasy purposes, which is what we're talking right now, he's consistently delivered basically outside of week 1. So running back, you're looking at a guy who delivered big time his last time out.
Yeah, and I think that we could see another repeat of that again here this week as well. David Montgomery, the Lions are really banged up offensively coming into this game. No Amon-Ra St. Brown, no Jahmyr Gibbs coming into this one. Josh Reynolds is dealing with an injury too as well. We saw how willing the Lions were to go to him last week. He had 34 total touches in that game. I would be shocked if we see at least 25 plus in this game as well. Panthers allowing over 29 DraftKings fantasy points a game. Running back position so far this season. They've been getting absolutely gashed on the ground and through the air by the opposing running back position. 5 yards per carry, 6.8 yards per reception to opposing running backs thus far. This is a huge spot for Montgomery. If you're playing a cash game lineup, he's going to be one own guys here. Tournament, maybe that's a fade if you want to do that because of the ownership is going to be so high on him, but you cannot deny the amount of touches that he's most likely going to be getting into this game against the Panthers here.
Panthers are a dream matchup for this too because Detroit's offensive line has just been imposing its will against opposing defenses here. Tough to really find a positive sign, a positive lights on the Cincinnati offense right now. Hard to really love anybody on it, but you're going in that direction anyway.
No, I think you can like Jamar Chase a lot here, and this is really because of T. Higgins being out in this game. Last season for the Bengals, there were 2 games that Higgins did not play and Jamar Chase did play. In those 2 games, he saw a combined 27 targets against the Ravens and the Browns. He turned those targets into 17 receptions and 169 receiving yards. There really isn't a bad matchup for him in coverage this week against the Arizona Cardinals, whether he's lined up against Wilson or Clark or Thompson, because Jamar Chase lines up all over the field here. It doesn't really matter. He has the plus advantage in all of those matchups here. So combine that with the amount of looks that he's been getting without T. Higgins from what we saw last year, this should be a huge game for Jamar Chase. So he's going to be in that weird realm where it's, are you going to pay up for him or Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill? Even with Higgins out, Jamar Chase might be the guy that's third on that list because there's such good matchups here for Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. So depending on where the ownership lands on Chase, he's a good spot for him regardless, but my ownership on him is really going to vary depending on where everyone else checks in for ownership.
And after that Week 4 loss to the Titans, he told reporters, Jamar Chase, I'm always effing open.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And Tyler Boyd also make for an intriguing flex
without
option.
a doubt in the slot there. Without a doubt.
Yeah, he's got a good history of success when Higgins is out. Tight end, we know the deal with Zach Ertz. Tons of volume, minimal yards after the catch, but what do you think?
Yeah, so tight end has been a wasteland. Like we always talk about how bad the position has been. This year specifically,
maybe the worst,
has been even worse. Okay. Like if you look at guys that have exceeded 15 DraftKings fantasy points on the year, it's only happened 5 or 6 times for the tight end position in these 5 weeks of NFL football so far. So it's been really hard to get a good tight end. This guy killed
everyone last week with like a easy catch in the end zone. He drops it for a touchdown.
Yeah, but we're going to be going back to Zach Ertz here, seeing in Cardinals-Bengals game here. The Bengals have not been strong against opposing tight ends. So far this season, opposing tight ends have averaged 15.3 DraftKings fantasy points, 55 receiving yards, and 3 touchdown scores. I don't really understand why Dobbs is in love with Ertz as much as he is, but he's averaging 7.5 targets per game. This is somebody that we said was dust when he was acquired by the Cardinals at this point, but he's been one top targets in this Cardinals offense so far this season. He hasn't scored yet so far, but he does have 6 red zone targets. So whether it's this week or the coming weeks, like, it's going to come for of looks that he gets specifically in the red zone. But overall, 7.5 targets per game for as cheap as he is in this matchup. I mean, that's going to be really hard to pass up for me.
Quarterback hasn't thrown an interception this season.
Yeah, he's been great.
So another dude you could look at too as a flyer season long, or if you want to kind of differentiate yourself from the pack in DFS, Dobbs, not the worst choice. DST, I love this.
Yeah.
Saints going up against the Patriots and Mac Jones, who is in need of repair right now.
Yeah, without a doubt. If you look at the more popular DST plays for today, the Titans are at the top of the list there. I was actually surprised that the Saints are not getting a lot of love this week when going up against the Patriots.
Yeah, what makes you think the Patriots can fix what's been broken all year?
No, without a doubt. And I mentioned it here earlier in the show when we were talking about Josh's obsession with the Falcons. Desmond Ridder and Mac Jones are tied for the league in turnover-worthy plays in the league here. Mac Jones has 10 of those, so does Ridder. And that means balls that have high probability of being interception or taking poor care of the ball and fumbling the ball here. So with all that in mind, I like the Saints here going up against Mac Jones. Will we see Bailey Zappi in this game? Who knows? Mac Jones just got benched last week, but amongst the DSTs that you can pay for, I think it's $3K for the Saints in this one. That's a really hard one to pass up. I think that's the Saints is going to be the play here at that position.
All the way down the board.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising, honestly.
All right, everybody, we got to take another break. Let's out some primetime picks coming up next. San Fran, Dallas, a rivalry game. What's fueling Dak and company? We know what's fueling Devontae Adams Monday night, facing his former team. Under the bright lights we go next. All right, 2 primetime games, talking Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. We got storylines galore. So the first one tonight, Cowboys and 49ers. Game of the year, it might be. Dak Prescott leading the Cowboys in their swarming defense against the 49ers here, who might be the best team in the NFL at this early stage of the season. Here is what both teams are saying entering this evening.
Oh.
Yeah, this game's got a lot of good that can come from it. It means more than just one game. You got to treat it as one game, and at the end of the day, it will just be one game. But understanding these guys are undefeated, as you said, in the conference. Fighting for a 1 seed, always, you know what I'm saying, trying to get every game that you can. You don't go into any game you're thinking that we don't need this one or this one isn't as big as that one. But from a team that's been consistent in the past few years, knocked us out of the playoffs in the last 2 years, there's a lot that we can gain from this win that makes it definitely more than just one game.
Anger, feuds, competitive nature between the two fan bases for sure. I mean, you look back years and years, and whoever played, whoever won this game in the playoffs would go on to the Super Bowl. These are two of the most storied franchises in history. Dallas wins a lot of games. 49ers win a lot of games. So when you get to meet up on Sunday Night Football, it is a big deal. I know our fan bases love it. We love it. And I think overall it's going to be a fantastic football game.
I don't know why. Right there, George Kittle looks like he smells like hot dog water, but it's rare that an early October matchup has the feel of a playoff game here. That's what happens when you pair up two NFC powerhouses and linking up after meeting in the playoffs, the 2 previous years. I believe it was Dallas, or 49ers rather, ending the Cowboys season the past 2 years. Josh, what are the chances you're looking at the Dallas side here for a game bet? Because we know that motivation is there.
Yeah, definitely have the motivation. I would have, if you're going to back Dallas, I would have much rather preferred that they maybe lost to the Patriots or didn't look good against the Pats. I'm always wary of backing a dog getting points after they come out with a blowout win. That being said, this is very interesting. The fact that it's an 8:20 game here tonight, I think, the fact we're sitting on 3.5 right now, that's such a key number. It is juiced up toward the 49ers a little bit, minus 112. To me, you can make the case for betting Dallas just from a data-driven standpoint. The fact that you look at the 49ers right now, they're getting 75% of bets. Now, they're the new hot thing. They've been this way for a few years. Week in, week out, it's going to be Chiefs 49ers, getting all the public support, prime time at home. I get all that. To me, the fact is, will this 3.5 get down to 3? Will it go up to 4? I don't think you have to bet this thing right now. I think if you're looking to play Dallas, you really want to see the juice movement switch. So it's Dallas right now, plus 3.5. Does it get to plus 3.5, minus 115, minus 120? You actually want to see this thing get down to 3 if you're going to sweat Dallas here. They are contrarian in a heavily bet game. They're a primetime dog. There are reasons to buy low on Dallas. I know the sportsbooks, Emerson, want Dallas to win and cover this game because everyone's betting San Francisco. That being said, I feel like it's such a good price to just take San Francisco to win the game on the money line. It's only like minus 175, minus 180. You never get them at home at this price. I think it's a battle between San Fran money line, Dallas in the points. Again, you can make the case for Dallas if you start to see this thing fall to 3.
In Bukes, the last time these two teams played each other, the game came down to the final drive.
Yeah, and you know what? I like something that you can bet now. I like taking the over in this one at 45 points. That wasn't a knock at you. Okay. But I just think that we're going to see a lot of points in this game here. When you look at Dallas and their defense, it shows that they've only allowed an average of 10.3 points per game. So you go, wow, this defense has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the offensive juggernauts that this team has played so far this season. Giants, Jets, Cardinals, Patriots. I would hope that you're allowing only about 10.3 points per game facing those 4 teams there. They're going to get a massive slap of reality when they face probably one of the best offenses in the league in San Francisco. Brock Purdy has been phenomenal. I mean, it's not hard to be phenomenal when you have all those weapons surrounding you, good offensive line in front of him. When he's clean, working with a clean pocket, he's averaging 10.8 yards per pass attempt at this point with guys like McCaffrey and Ayuk and Deebo Samuel handling the work after that. I think this game's going over here. I would not be shocked if the 49ers can put up 30 points against this Dallas defense. I think this is really going to expose them here tonight. So give me over 45 points for this game.
Well, we will hear from Chase Daniel coming up and why he thinks Brock Purdy is elite.
Okay.
What about a prop bet you like in this game?
So Brandon Cooks has really been a massive disappointment for the Cowboys thus far. I mean, this is somebody who's been, or was supposed to be, like that deep downfield threat. He's been anything but that. So give me the under on his longest reception, which is set at 19.5 yards. His average distance of target for the year sits at almost half of that. 8.5 yards. That's the average distance of his targets that he's been getting thus far. So not only that, that's also the lowest amongst all the Cowboys receivers in those 3 wide receiver sets here. He's seeing about 5 targets per game, but he's really been the third option on this team behind CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup here. Dak is not throwing the ball downfield deep either. He only has 11 throws of 20 yards or more. His ADOT is 6.2 on the year. That's tied with Bryce Young at this point in the season. He's just simply not going deep downfield. So it feels unlikely that Cook is going to go over that mark because he hasn't been going over that mark to begin with. So giving him under 19.5 yards on his longest reception today.
Yeah, Josh, this really is the first test of 2023 for the 49ers. So maybe you look at the Cowboy side for a prop.
So I think the popular one is going to be Dak Prescott to throw an interception. I've been seeing on Twitter a lot of people are playing this. I totally get it. Prescott is prone to, forcing the ball, making a mistake. Obviously have a great defense here with the 49ers. I'm looking at the price right now. Will he throw a pick? Minus 150 to the yes. I would maybe go the other way and look at Brock Purdy not to throw an interception. Purdy's been fantastic. You look at his passer rating, it's the highest in the NFL. Obviously, as a guy who was drafted late, didn't really expect to be in this position, but you got to give the kid a ton of credit. He's been fantastic since coming into the league. Last year and this year, combined in his career, 18 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He's got 5 TDs, no picks this year. I just love the fact that he takes care of the ball. He doesn't force it. He doesn't have to because he's got great receivers, great offensive line, really good running game, and a great defense here. So, again, I know Prescott's the popular one, but I would actually take Purdy not to throw a pick, that under a half pick. It's minus 160.
Well, the Cowboys motivated tonight. Devontae Adams motivated tomorrow night on Monday Night Football. Packers and the Raiders. The All-Pro wideout is going to play against his former team here for the first time, which may give him a little extra juice to put up some big numbers. Let's hear from him.
I mean, I'm not looking too deep into it as it pertains to that stuff. It's more just, enjoying the opportunity to see some of the old faces, in the training room. Coaches, couple players, much different team over the last couple of years since I was there. So, it'll be a cool opportunity to see some of those guys and obviously play against a team that I've never played against. It's my last team to play against, so it'll be fun.
I don't know if there's a lot to help against a player of that caliber. If he's not the best, he is certainly right there. He just, every time he goes out on the field, every snap, you better know where he's aligned. You better have a plan for him because he can take over a game. We've seen it firsthand over the years, and I think, he just some of the plays he's made this past year or this season through 4 games have been unbelievable, but it doesn't ever surprise me because I've seen him do it for years. So, just a guy that we've got a ton of respect for, just not only the player, the person, the competitor, and we're going to have our hands full with him.
Yeah, no matter who's under center for the Raiders, opposing teams just haven't been able to slow down Adam. Tied with Justin Jefferson, 3rd in reception, ranks 8th in the league in receiving yards. What's a game bet you like in this one, Steve?
I like Packers. I like them at +2 right now. This has been a little bit all over the place. Packers were favorites for a while. It was announced that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play, and then everyone was like, oh, we're going to bet the Raiders. Dumb, bad move. Jimmy Garoppolo stinks. I will go on this show every single week and think he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. 2 of the worst quarterbacks in the league had ties to the Patriots. Mac Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo. Yep. Jimmy Garoppolo already 6 interceptions on the year already. That's tied for the league going up against a good Packers secondary. Green Bay's been good against the spread, 3-1 against the spread as an underdog this season, covering by an average of 3 points. I don't feel like we're giving enough respect to Jordan Love. I think he's been more than a capable quarterback so far this season, going up against a very poor Raiders defense at this point. Like, if Jimmy Garoppolo is the reason that you are backing the Raiders, I have some news for you, my friend. You are going to be getting a nice old X in your account when the Packers cover this game, so give me the Pack.
All right, Josh, Packers offense potentially picking up some steam here with running back Aaron Jones and Christian Watson back from hamstring injuries.
So, Steve, you're going to love my answer for this.
Here we go.
Let's go Raiders. Let's go Raiders.
Just stare at you the whole
I know.
time.
I'm only here to troll you, Steve.
Here's the worst part. Like,
What?
I get he has his system. He needs to watch some of these players play to actually go with this system. Have you watched Jimmy Garoppolo?
I have. Actually, I have PTSD from the last time I played Jimmy G.
And he's gonna go
because
right
I was
back
against
to
the Steelers, and they were a sharp move at home, and they got, I think they blown out or lost. Or
Oh, there's a shock.
What was it, 23-18? I forget. Anyway, by the way, Michael Lombardi, who I used to work with at VSiN,
Yeah.
he'd always joke that I look at the players as Coke machines. They're meaningless.
Oh,
I don't care at all.
see,
it's
he's
all about the
totally
market
right.
and the movement.
Totally
so
right.
Lombardi's totally right. But I would just say my case for playing the Raiders,
Love to hear
staying
it.
true to the market. Number one is that the fact the public is all over the Packers. They're getting around 65% of bets, only 35% of bets on the Raiders, but they're getting almost half the money. And it's because of Jimmy G mostly, but you did see this line flip toward Vegas. So Vegas at one point was getting 2, now they're laying 2. This is another trendy dog with Green Bay. Steve, I got to go down with the ship. Let's go Raiders.
All right. Devontae Adams will be fired up to go against his former team. That was the case for Shaq Griffin, member of the Texans secondary when he played the Jags a few weeks ago. He would join the program. We're talking about, yes, a good football team there in Houston. There's been a lot of people talking, tweeting, and emailing about how this show, The Sweat, is the best show on DraftKings Network, which I think we would all agree here in the studio. But a close second would no doubt be Gojo and Golic. Another fun week on their program. Tons of guests and tons of fun, including Shaq Griffin, built by UCF. The Jags paid him a boatload of money, and now he's part of that surprisingly good Texans team.
What's the energy like around Houston right now with all the renewed hope around this Texans team?
Oh, man, the energy, I feel like the energy is a whole bunch of guys just buying in. I feel like everybody's on the same page and want to turn things around. And, and it's easy to get a couple guys just to say it. You got your couple leaders, your couple captains who say, oh, yeah, we want to get the organization turned around. But everybody is buying in, from the guys that, on practice squad to the guys that's on the roster. Everybody is playing their part to do whatever it takes to get this organization back to where we wanted to be at. So, it's awesome to see everybody buy in without even having to continue to relay the message every single day. Everybody just gets it.
You dealt with other coaches in Seattle and Jacksonville. Tell us about D'Amico Ryan's energy and what he's brought to the team.
Man, it's a person, he's a coach that understands the game. And I think that's the best part about it. A person that's been through it, the person don't seem a little bit of everything, and when it comes to adversity in every situation that you could be in, a person who understands everything that a player could be going through or could see. I feel like that's the awesome part about it. And after being under a system like Pete Carroll, to come here, he's definitely a player's coach. It's a person who want to take care of his players, because if he take care of players, them same guys are going to run through a brick wall for him. And I kind of see those similarities, and, be able to bring that and have that experience of being in the league before. His energy is contagious, and I can see why, he played as long as he did, to be the captain that he was, when he played this game, it shows, and I feel like he carrying over into his coaching, and everybody is following his league, and it's awesome to see that.
Do you remember that first moment where it sank in, whether it was on the field or in meetings, when you realized this is how it's going to be with him as a head coach?
Oh, man, I think that happened first meet when I first got there. I actually remember, just coming here on the visit before I actually signed. And, the type of conversation that we had, I was already bought into before I even signed here. I was telling him, I'm the type of guy now in my years where I don't need to be motivated. I just want to win, and I feel like that's the part that he wanted. He needed everybody to feel like. So, we was already on the same page, and he already bringing that energy before, you talk about OTAs, before camp and all this. This is the energy he was bringing along from the beginning since he stepped through these doors. And, and that's all it was. And now that everybody is seeing that and buying into it, whatever it takes, we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure we win, and everybody is following that message. He's been preaching that from the time he walked through these doors.
You mentioned earlier on this show, Steve, Texans at plus 475 to win the AFC South, while the fourth best odds out of four teams there. That, to me, says that you believe that they are for real this year, or can be.
No, I think they can be. The offense has been good. The defense has been good. Coming into this game this week, they're allowing an average of 19.8 points per game. That's just outside the top 10 best teams in the league thus far. And for C.J. Stroud to immediately come in and be a huge impact to this team. You think about the quarterbacks that they've dealt with over the past couple of years. We've seen Davis Mills in there. It's just been this carousel of characters, and now they actually finally have some stability at that position, and now they can actually have some of these guys work. Nico Collins has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of C.J. Stroud coming in. Dell has been great. There's just been so many good things that come out of that. Dameon Pierce too as well. This team can do well, and then like I mentioned earlier, their schedule the rest of the year, boy, it feels like a cakewalk for them at this point. I think they're legit this year.
Are you buying into the Texans as being a contender? A little bit of...
I'm not buying in today. No. Yeah, they're going to lose. They're going to get beat pretty bad today, I would say. But
no way.
I would say to Steve's point, though, I am going through the schedule, and it does look kind of decent here for the Texans.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a short dog at Atlanta. Then you're going to be home against New Orleans. You're at Carolina, they're bad. Tampa Bay, they could regress. Cincy, we don't know about them. Arizona's terrible. I mean, you run through the list, then you're going to play Denver, New York. A couple tough games against Tennessee and the Colts, these division matchups. I think, to me, you're really liking what you're seeing in terms of the future. This is a team that totally bottomed out, traded away all their big picks. They took a lot of hits here to now start to see this thing flourish. So I'm high on them long term. I do like the schedule the more I look at it in terms of them having a competitive year here. But it's all about today, guys. They're getting blown out today.
All right.
It's not true at all.
Producer Drew just brought to my ear, says the last 25 games is underdogs versus the NFC they've lost. I think I got that right.
In the last 25 games?
But the last 25 games, when they look at the touch, the last 25 games as underdogs versus NFC teams, they've lost.
The hell do I care?
Well, they're playing the Falcons today.
This is a different team. Stuff like that doesn't matter. It's a completely different team. What do I care what the Texans did 10 years ago to when I'm betting today?
Well, it's interesting because while it's a different team every year, and they can't seem to beat an NFC team when they're an underdog.
When was the last time the Texans were a good team?
Last week.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
I would say, though, when you have interconference games,
here we go.
Be nice
when
to
you have
him.
AFC playing NFC, there is, you look historically, an advantage to the favorites just because of the lack of familiarity. So when you don't match up very well, this is the difference between division games and non-conference. So there could be an angle there. I do agree with Steve. I would just say, like, whenever there's like a Patriots stat about how the Patriots are so good,
who cares?
it's like, that was with Brady, it's not now.
Right.
Okay.
But
It
again,
doesn't matter.
interconference does benefit favorites.
Tell Drew to push some buttons and be quiet.
Wow, producer Drew. Anywho, CJ Stroud has been impressive as well. And also on Gojo and Golic this week, a former NFL quarterback, Chase Daniel. He was on to talk a bunch of quarterbacks, including Brock Purdy, right? Brock Purdy being elite, but also he spent 5 seasons, Chase Daniel did, with Sean Payton. So what did he have to say with the situation right now in Denver?
Well, one thing, Chase, I was wondering, you've been with Sean Payton for a bit in your career. He goes to Denver. You have Russell Wilson who loves to create things, and you have Sean Payton who loves you to stay in the pocket, make your reads, and get rid of the ball. When you saw that marriage happen, what did you think?
I liked it. I really did, because I was with Sean Payton for 5 years of my career, and I know that he's going to get the absolute best out of his quarterback. And I don't care who it is, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, you can name them. That's what he does. He's like the quarterback whisperer. Now, the stuff going on in Denver, you look at Russell's stats and you actually dive deep into the All-22 and look at his game this year. It's been excellent. The dude has been like vintage Russ Wilson. He's got 3 or 4 scramble touchdowns in the red zone, what he is known for. I've talked to the guys on staff there, and they said, hey, man, he still throws one of the best deep balls in all of football, and I agree with that. Okay, the problem in Denver is not the offense. It is the defense. The Broncos' defense the last 2 years have been exceptionally well. I mean, top 10 in the league, especially pass defense, and they are just atrocious this year. I have no idea what's going on. So I think Russell's sort of getting the bug of that. But if you actually look in and look at the play, look, I know quarterbacks are supposed to win, and our good friend Trey Wayne will say, hey, wins aren't a quarterback stat. At the end of the day, you still have to win, right? You still have to do it, and your team has to be better. But I think Russell's playing exceptionally well, though.
All right, Chase, we only got about 30 seconds left here. I just need a quick answer on this. Is Brock Purdy elite? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes, he is. And that's the crazy thing. That's funny you said that, because I'm doing these all-22 quarterback breakdowns on YouTube, and we're dropping Brock Purdy today, and I'll dive deep into why he is elite. I mean, the dude completed 19 to 20 passes in an NFL game. He's like 9-0 in the games he's won and started in the National Football League. The dude is elite. He has really good playmakers around him, but I think he doesn't make any mistakes whatsoever in playing the game. He plays it exactly how Kyle Shanahan wants him to.
Yeah, the perfect Shanahan quarterback does exist.
All right, Chase Daniel says Russell Wilson and the offense is not the problem in Denver. Then what is it?
No, I think he's spot on. It is the defense. Like, let's strip away that game where they gave up 70 points to the Dolphins. They're still allowing about 27 points per game at this point.
Yeah, that game against the Bears, man.
Yeah, and then like the one against the what was it, the Commanders, when they came all the way back in that game when the Broncos were up big.
So hot and cold.
Exactly. But Russell Wilson has been good, but that is so easy to overlook when your team is giving up 70 points in a given week, that it's so easy to overlook the offense. Like, you know, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, there's some capable receivers on that team. It's not the offense at this point, I agree. It's been the defense for the Broncos so far.
Will Wilson and Peyton, how much longer will what we see between them continue to go on, and like, will it be fixed at some point?
So I think it's going pretty good, as Steve mentioned, just offensively, and there's so much money tied to both these guys. You look at the contracts that they've been given, I think they're kind of stuck with them regardless, and maybe it could be kind of a good stuck, just the fact that as Steve mentioned here, you know, they're averaging 350 yards of offense per game. They're averaging like 25, 26 points per game. One reason why I do like them today against the Jets is the difference offensively. Jets are only averaging like 14 points a game. But again, it's all about the defense. They are going to get some guys back, though. A lot of injured players are returning. To me, there's also a report, though, that they may trade some guys at the deadline. So if they're not in it, do they start to, sell for next year? Again, it's all about their defense struggling with their offense, and Russell Wilson's actually been pretty good.
Well, real quick, Brock Purdy, elite, yes or no, Steve?
Yes, but it's just the guys around him.
Yes, but don't give me like Joe Flacco elite. Like, he's an elite winner. Can I call him elite winner?
Yeah, see, I agree with that. And let's keep in mind, this will be his stiffest competition in terms of defense later tonight, right? Maybe?
Maybe.
I mean, when they were rattling off win after win en route to the NFC title game last year, let's not forget the Cowboys defense was the only unit that really gave the then rookie quarterback any real fit. So
Cowboys still have not played anybody.
That is very true, but they are also still scoring touchdowns. Anywho, one more break to go, one more block to go. Let's get some no sweat bets, and also we're cornering the market. Which wide receivers Steve Buchanan is targeting today? Final block of this weekend program we call The Sweat, 8 to 10 Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday mornings on DraftKings Network, VSiN, and multiple other places that I can't remember currently. Cornering the market. Let's kick off our final block with this. So, Stephen, you've been doing this week in and week out for us. This is basically when you tell us why you were targeting a wide receiver or potentially staying away from a wide receiver because of his matchup with an opposing cornerback. Right now, we're going to Jamar Chase, correct? Because you mentioned you liked him in fantasy today, despite the Bengals offense looking not so
flimsy.
great.
Little flimsy. But let's talk about Jamar Chase, specifically going up against Marco Wilson of the Cardinals. Wilson has been targeted against already 25 times. It has allowed 21 receptions, 16.4 yards per reception, and 106 yards after the catch. That yards per reception is one of the highest in the league at this point. We talked about this earlier, how good Jamar Chase has been without T. Higgins in the mix. In 2 games that they played when Chase was in and Higgins was out, Chase saw a total of 27 targets in 2 games against the Ravens and the Browns, 17 receptions, 169 yards in those games, giving Jamar Chase against Marco Wilson.
Josh, would you be a little nervous, though, pursuing anybody on the Bengals offense?
I would. I think the big injury there obviously is T. Higgins here, so you feel like it's going to be Chase, having a great game. But I would go to a different matchup here. With all these injuries on the Patriots, I think there's a great play to go with Chris Olave today. Olave's been great leading the team in targets, is over under 64.5 receiving yards, minus 125. Look at this one, Tom. Who is going to cover Olave? Who is going to cover Thomas? Look at all these guys who are injured. Gonzalez is out. Jack Jones, injuries, other legal issues. All the Joneses are questionable. J.C. Jackson, you're so desperate for, you have to trade for. So even though it's a really low total game, the total is falling. Maybe it's going to be a 17-14 game, something like that. I think you target a lot of these Saints wide receivers just because the Patriots are so banged up on the defensive back front.
And they were saying Derek Carr's looked better in practice, too. He clearly wasn't ready to go last week.
How about that crazy stat line by Alvin Kamara? 14 targets, 13 receptions for 33 yards. That's disgusting. It's kind of cool if you have him on your fantasy team, especially full-point PPR. But, my God, in terms of on-field product, that's not great.
Yeah, his A-dot for that game last week was at 7.5. That was one of the lowest of his career, especially the lowest of the season. So I think they're ready to go here against the Patriots secondary.
Yeah, and you agree with Josh in terms of targeting Chris Olave.
No, it's fantastic. Of the guys that are on there, Sean Wade, J.C. Jackson, Miles Bryant, doesn't matter who it is, Olave should excel in this game here, too. Good buy low spot for him, too, as well. Only had, 4 yards, I think it was last week. He'll exceed that total this week against that Patriots secondary that was a strength 2 years ago. 2 weeks ago, probably 2 years ago, too, as well. But specifically 2 weeks ago, not so much this time around. So give me Olave. Give me the Saints as a whole, really, against this Patriots team.
Yeah, new Patriots newcomer there, J.C. Jackson, which a familiar spot for him, starting his career in New England. I believe played only 66% of snaps first 2 weeks for the Chargers. So we'll see what he can do on the defensive side for the Pats, which the report this morning coming out is that last week, the final straw before he was traded from the Chargers to the Patriots is he untied his cleats on the sideline and refused to go into the game.
That's one way to get kicked off the team.
Yeah, right.
That's very Antonio Brown-esque.
Yeah. Except, I don't think he ripped his pads and shirt off and was giving the peace sign, leaping through the end zone as a play was happening on the field. Speaking of end zones, who will be visiting it today? I don't know, a no-sweat bet right now. Your favorite bet on your betting card, Steve, is what?
Yeah, I talked about this earlier. I just really like Josh Dobbs today. I really like him to go over that rushing yards that we talked about, going back to that Bengals game. This is something that he's done all season long. His rushing prop is I think at 22, 21. It's been bouncing around here a little bit, but he's averaging almost 14 yards more a game than that prop is set at currently. And the Bengals have allowed the 5th most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks on the year so far. I just think Dobbs is going to be making a lot of plays here against this Bengals team. Like him to go over that rushing yard prop. I just feel like it's a little too low, pretty low against a team that's been giving up a lot of these rushing yards to begin with.
What do you think, Josh?
So when I was going into this final segment, I said, okay, it's going to be the Tennessee Titans, dog to favorite. I love that move toward Tennessee. Then I'm looking at one game today that just keeps coming back. It's a point of contention. I'm going to drive Steve crazy here. But I'm so excited now. Even though we're in New England, it's a big Patriots day. I cannot wait to watch the Houston Texans and the Atlanta Falcons here, guys. This, to me, is when you go out on a limb, you trust the system, you trust the data. The fact that, again, we have Houston as the trendy play, yet the line is going to Atlanta. They were getting at 1 point, a point or two. Now it's flipped to -2, or it's bottomed out at 1. Now it's coming back up to 2.5. I don't love Ritter, and again, this is my style of betting. I watch the tape. Maybe it doesn't look very good, but people much sharper than me seem to like Atlanta. The fact this line's going back in their favor. So I got to check my TV channels. I hope I can get this game. I got to watch this one.
I mean, someone forgot to tell the Texans that they were supposed to be bad, but at least C.J. Stroud right now, already exponentially better than Patrick Mahomes, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Johnny, Utah, all of that fun stuff, right?
Uncle Rico, everybody.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
So I want to get back into the Nathaniel, because we have a few more minutes. The Nathaniel Hackett revenge game here. Josh hit on it briefly, I believe it was in the first block. For you, your expectations today, could this be the best we've seen the Jets offense, considering how pissed off and maybe motivated he still is after Sean Payton calling him out and the terrible job that he did when he was head coach briefly of the Broncos?
So you're asking if I think the Jets are going to look good?
Yes, I am. And against the Denver defense, right? Which we all just talked about is the problem, not the offense.
I mean, that definitely comes into play. I mean, Zach Wilson, for as bad as he's been, probably had one of the best games in the past year or so that we saw last week. And now he's going up against another good spot where they could really kind of come through and go against this really poor Broncos secondary. I actually have a lot more intrigue in this game today than I did earlier in the week, because I think there are some interesting things that are coming into this game. On paper, it's a gross-looking game, but, can the Broncos overcome what's been a pretty tough Jets secondary? Can Zach Wilson overcome everything that he's gone through over the past year and a half? So I think a lot more eyes are going to be on this one, but if there is a game that you can build off of what you had last week, this is the perfect opportunity to do that against the Denver Broncos. I think Zach Wilson's going to look pretty decent, but then it's going to come crashing down after that, because they got a pretty tough schedule coming up after the Broncos.
That's fine. This is the Jets Super Bowl this season. I believe there were comments made by Robert Saleh early this week about unleashing Hall in the backfield, right? Like no more handcuffs on him, and you just got to let that dude cook.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think Jeff Ulrich and our buddies there earlier were targeting Breece Hall there to get in the end zone anytime. So that makes a ton of sense here. You're looking at Zach Wilson. He had a career game last week. Obviously, they were able to cover that number thanks to Mahomes, sliding and not getting in the end zone. But right now his passing prop is 207.5. It's -115 both sides. I feel like he's going to go over this number, but that just seems low after he threw for 245 last week. You look at the 3 games before that, 140, 170, 157. So this is, again, as a bettor, it's like what you think or want or hope will happen versus what the market's telling you. So that just worries me that Wilson number is so low if this team's been getting shredded. I like the Denver Broncos in this spot. Guys, I'm on the money line, -135. Jets are a big popular play, revenge game, all these public narratives and angles. Yet, this thing bottomed out at around -1.5. It's creeping back up toward Denver. Better offense. And Emerson, have you ever been to Colorado? You ever tried to breathe that air?
I have.
It's kind of hard for visiting teams, right?
You feel a little funny when you start breathing that air out there in Colorado. That's for sure. If you're Russ, you got to hate the matchups for your wide receivers, though, Steve. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed in coverage.
Yeah, but this actually opens up a good spot for Jerry Jeudy, because Sauce Gardner is going to be mostly on Cortland Sutton. That's going to open up a good spot here for Jerry Jeudy. So I feel like, especially if you're playing like daily fantasy, making props bet here, Jerry Jeudy I think is a pretty sneaky guy here this week.
Jaguars currently in the red zone too.
Yep.
Okay.
Could be a big day for you, Emerson.
Bills just lost Milano, just limped off the field.
All right. So. Okay. Who's on upset alert today?
Technically, it would be
the Bills right now. That's right, against the World's team.
Yeah, but technically right now, the Falcons for the upset because they're the favorites right now. So it seems like that's a pretty easy upset.
Anyone else on upset alert today for you, Josh?
Well, I would just say, can we just make a friendly wager? Can we cut out the juice, you and I, just right down the middle?
Okay.
I've got to be going with Atlanta here. You're on Houston.
Yeah.
That's why we can bet through friends, get away from the juice.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So
Emerson, you're the tiebreaker. Who's going to win this game? Who do you like?
I like the Texans. I like the Texans to win this game because of C.J. Stroud, and just Desmond Ritter is terrible.
He does make me nervous, I would say.
If the Texans win, I'm taking next weekend off.
Me too.
The one's going to be me and Julian?
Well, I don't know. Julian's not here because he says he's marrying a friend. He's a priest now.
Right.
It's just kind of creepy and weird.
They're not into gambling, though. That's a little sacrilegious,
No.
right? I would say.
He's a fit. Well, okay, yeah, officiating. I don't know, maybe phrasing, maybe worded that a little too wrong. All right, everybody, that is a show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on a Sunday edition of The Sweat. Josh will be here with Julian next week. Steve and I are going to enjoy the weekend off because we're big Texans fans right now. Jags still in the red zone, hoping to just throw it to Calvin Ridley. Damn it. Please, everybody wants that. Thanks, everyone. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy the Week 5 slate.
Interception.